Sunday. And on this very show, we're going to talk about the new hit piece documentary by Showtime called We Need to Talk About Bill Cosby. All right. So anyway, before we do, I just like to say the purpose of the Demetri K Show is to promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people with the emphasis on even. Also, like to say a big giant thank you and welcome to YouTube and Facebook, the other side of the conversation. You all are not just viewers, you are participants because we read each and every comment because we feel like you should be heard too. And if I didn't already, say thank you, Donovan. Thank you so much for all that you do on the show and to Marcus Guyton for everything that you do behind the scenes on Facebook to make the show go further. And so before we get started, Donovan, what say you?
All right, you guys, welcome again to another exciting weekend. The Rams and the San Francisco 49ers are playing at a stadium that got rid of thousands of Negroes out of the neighborhood so that we can see two NFL football players play in the playoffs and white folks just be comfortable in their skin as they go down into the ghetto that was gentrified. So, yay, what a great Maxine Waters, great Black leadership. It's awesome. But as you know, when it's Sunday, it is the Demetri K Show. Please do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that button so that we can do it. Share it on your own pages as well. Because, again, let's just get this message out. Because a lot of people are waking up, and we appreciate people like Demetri and these other platforms that are out there that are kind of really waking people up. And I happen to know for a fact a lot of older people do listen to what Demetri K has to say, and they do chime in, and they listen. They might listen to the whole show, but they're very familiar with the platform, and they agree with a lot of stuff that you're saying. So let's get into it.
Well, we're gonna see if they agree with me after today. So anyway, let me get to some of these comments before I get started. We got Robin. Good evening, Moni. What's going on? Tracy Monet. You also say, Moni, much Detroit love to you, Demetri. It's officially 6:05, and I love you and my sexy brown sugar Donovan with his head pointed down. He's, doing some technical stuff. And Fight for Black, how you doing? Such a long Queen Queen Demetri and King Donovan. Yes, indeed. And Tracy say, oh, I love you here. Thank you so much. Anita, what's going on with you? And Jamarcus, yeah, what's going on? And one who cares says, good evening, Demetri Donovan in chat. Yes, indeed. Oh, we got Cecil on here. How you doing? Thank you so much for that. And Fight for Black says, Maxine Waters, God. And Moni says, I like my raspberry lipstick, Demetri. It fits you perfectly. I hope you'll be wearing lots of it. And future pink for Valentine's Day, happy early year of the tiger, water tiger year. Yes, all of that. Anastasia, how you doing? Says salutations. And Thunder, what's going on with you? And Jafia, hello. And Facts Not Feelings, what's going on? All right. So let's go ahead and get started. As you guys may or may not know, there is, I call it a hit piece that's out about Bill Cosby. And it's going to start today. It's a 4-part series called We Need to Talk About Bill Cosby. Okay. As if we haven't talked about, when they say we, I don't know who they mean, but they. As if they have not talked about Bill Cosby enough. Now, this series is directed and produced and hosted by W. Kamal Bell. He is comedian, some sort of entertainer, journalist. He's known for doing journalist pieces on CNN about wokeness and all that. He's married to a white woman, but that's a different story. But, he talks about things that deal with Black people, if you will. And so somehow he's been commissioned to do this hit piece about Bill Cosby. You guys know Bill Cosby in 2018, April, well, actually it was September, he was sentenced to do 3 to 10 years for, aggravated indecent assault on Andrea Constand, where she said that he drugged and molested her. Now, she was invited to his mansion where he's married, right? He has a wife. Going out there, he actually got her a job at Temple University as a female basketball coach. She's gone to his house a bunch of times. She actually sued him a couple of years before. I think it was 2014. Don't get me wrong. It might be a little bit before that. And they settled for like $3 million, right? So they had already settled. And so Bill Cosby was found guilty and sentenced to prison. So he did about 3 years when last year in 2021, the case was overturned because basically his constitutional rights was violated. The previous DA told Cosby and his lawyers that none of this stuff would be admissible. This is just the civil part of it, dealing with the money. And then when it turned into a criminal thing, because you guys remember, all these women came out of the woodworks from all the way from the 60s saying that he did something to them in one way, shape, or form. All right, and so it turned into a criminal case, and then they somehow unsealed the documents against him, and they used the testimony that he gave during the civil trial with Andrea Constand during the criminal trial. And they were not supposed to do that because the DA never really could answer as to why and how it got unsealed. Now, there is speculation that the DA that brought the criminal charges was running for re-election and all of that. And so he used Cosby as his, his banter, his cry, for I'm helping women to get elected type of thing. So anyway, now Bill Cosby is out. And then now they're trying to find a new way of nailing Bill Cosby to the cross by bringing out this documentary. And I watched the trailer a few times, really just to kind of get a grasp of what they were trying to do. And so what they're doing is, and I call it the usual suspects. Now, when I say the usual suspects, I mean your Roland Martins, your Mark Lamont Hills, and your Jamel Hills, and all the other people. And I was kind of shocked to see Godfrey, the comedian, on there, who's usually, about the wokeness and stuff. And no shade, but he is not African American, if you will. I think he's from Haiti or something like that. But anyway, so you have all these usual suspects who are trying to draw a correlation from his shows. Like, for instance, when he was playing Cliff Huxtable on the Cosby Show, he was an OBGYN, right? And so they're saying, well, he could have been a dentist, but he chose to be an OBGYN. And so trying to say that he was some sort of a pervert by trying to do different things. And they took different scenes from the Cosby Show and saying, well, why did he do that scene? It was a scene of Denise and her boyfriend at the time on the show, Lisa Bonet's character, and they were kissing, and he was kind of narrating with Claire from afar, and they were trying to, basically say that that was perverse, and that was his way of, they said, leaving breadcrumbs that trying to tell us who he was. So basically trying to say he was hiding in plain sight, and we all missed these clues. And so really, when I watched the trailer, I'm like, I will not watch any of the 4-part series at all because it is a hit piece. And we've seen this before, haven't we? We've seen this with R. Kelly. We've seen this with Michael Jackson. Listen, I'm not saying R. Kelly didn't do something. He did. But we saw what they did. And shortly after that, R. Kelly was brought up on charges. And he's probably never, ever, ever, ever going to get out of prison. And so I feel this is the same thing that they're trying to do to Bill Cosby. They couldn't get him with the court of law. He was able to get out of that. Now, mind you, Bill Cosby is 84 years old. And so they are still trying and gunning for Bill Cosby. And this is the thing here. They use Kamal Bell, who is a black man. Again, he's married to a white woman, and he talks about wokeness and black people, this, that, and the other. They used a black man to try to take down a black man. You know why they did that? So it can look more palatable. Well, here's a black man, because usually when we see it, like with the R. Kelly thing, it was a woman, Dream, whatever her name is. She fashioned this documentary, and there's a whole bunch of women and stuff. There were some men too, but it was led by women. But now they have it led by a black man, so it can look like, well, look, there's a black man. He's the one that put this together, so it must be something, right? Now watch Kamal Bell talk to Trevor Noah, and he was saying how he was kind of apprehensive to put it out because he got a lot of negative feedback about it. And he said that he asked a whole lot of other people would they join in on the documentary, and they said, no, we are not going to do this. We don't want to do it. And so he says the day, the last day that they shot this was the day that Bill Cosby got out. And so he was like, okay, well, maybe I don't have to do this. But he was like, no, I have to do it for the victims and all this blah, 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 right? And so we're going to have a conversation about this and see what you guys think about this hit piece. We need to talk about Bill Cosby, and if you think it's something we need to talk about, or if it's just simply a hit piece by white supremacy using a black man. So, Donovan, what say you before we get started?
Well, first of all, I think this is something that we really got to ask ourselves. Can you actually be pro-black or woke or whatever you want to call it and be married to a white person? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question to ask. Some people say yes. Some people say no. Me, I don't think so. And if you are, it's a confusing message. Black, 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 black. But I got Becky over here. Remember that episode in "What's I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker"? Clarence Williams III and Jan Brady comes out. My brother, my sister, the white, whatever. But here's the funny thing: when Mr. Ball, Kamal Ball, whatever his name is, was doing the circuit on this, as this recently came out in the last weeks. Do you guys remember what channel he went to first to talk about this? It was CBS. Gail, Oprah's friend, stuff like that. Now, who was on that show before all this really this thing broke out? Oh, Charlie Rose. Oh, wow. And then who was the head of CBS Paramount at the time that also got removed?
Les Moonves.
Right. Another white executive. So my question is this. You can put out all you want to put out on black men. This is why I disregard anything until I start seeing hit pieces on these white executives and all these other people, the Prince Edwards and whoever these other people are that are under all these sexual things. I personally discontinue anything else. Bill Cosby's rights were violated. Let's talk about that. Why aren't we talking about how his rights were violated? But, you never want to see that. So let's get into the comments because I see a lot of great questions and comments there.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you so much, Cecil. I appreciate that. And Reggie, how you doing? He says, greetings, global black family. And Cecil, he says, because she is natural and she deals with the truth. I appreciate that. And Facts Not Feelings says, Cosby is innocent. Women need to stop using wealthy men to try to get to retirement age without working. And Jafia says, yes, he is married to a white woman. Yeah, and I just found that out today. Donovan told me right before we got on here. I was doing a little bit of research on him, and I was like, okay. And one who cares? No. Robin, you say it's a hit piece. They would have put it out put it out had Cosby not been released from prison. Yeah. And it said that, as I said, that he got out on the last day of shooting. And, he said he thought about asking Bill Cosby to join in on it, but he didn't want to offend the victim. So he didn't. And one who cares, he says, he's a unfunny guy, in my opinion. He's a bootleg. I only started hearing about him.
Failed comic.
Yeah, I only started hearing about him when I saw him do documentaries and stuff on CNN. I didn't even know he was a comic. It doesn't seem like he'd be too funny. Jafia says, after she and her mother ran through the money, they came back for more. Yes, Andrea, the one that got $3 million from Bill Cosby during a settlement, she did run through the money. And she filed, I think, within less than a week of, I guess, the statute of limitations or whatever it was that was going to run out.
So, yeah, exactly.
So it was like right in the nick of time, right?
And she was the last victim who was eligible to file. Correct. I mean, that they know of. So.
And they used a lot of hearsay, witnesses and all that kind of stuff. It was just, just a lot. And Easy, how you doing? It says, hello, D, Donovan and friends. And Donovan says, welcome to the Meet Your Case show. And then we got a spammer bot thing here. Okay.
Yeah, I already took care of it.
All right. And Fight for Black says, the DA you're speaking of, Queen Demetra, ran on the platform of getting Cosby. Yes, exactly. Anastasia says, Godfrey is Nigerian. I knew he was something. So yes, Nigerian. And Robin says, I'm not impressed. Now, if he did a hit piece about some of these white dudes that the lame stream media is silent on, then I would be impressed. Right. But, I saw is it A&E, I think it is. They're trying to do something about Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Mansion. Is like, I'm not impressed about that one either. And Reggie says, Godfrey is Nigerian, but was born and raised in America. Okay, got it. And Jeremy has awakened. How you doing? He says, hey, everyone, working in the garden. Well, don't work too hard. And Angela, how you doing? And Ciela Trey, how you doing? He says, let's talk about Andrea Constance said in her deposition, she gave a Valentine's gift after it happened. Why give a Valentine's gift after? Right. And then one of the other ladies who played on the Cosby Show, she was the pregnant lady. I can't think of the Miss Menifee or whatever her name was. She claimed that Bill Cosby did something to her before she played that role. So you're saying that he did something to you, and then you went on and took the acting role. And she says, "Well, I wanted to act." And so it's like,
of course, you got to get the bag at all costs. Then you play victim once the money runs out.
Yeah, just like, come on, lady, really. And one who cares, you say initially Cosby was going to be a plumber and his wife was going to have a regular job. Also, it was producers that changed that narrative. Interesting. And Jafia says they are pulling an OJ on Cosby. Yep. In fact, and I feel it says R. Kelly only did what all the other zaddies in the industry was doing. Did not say it was right. No, absolutely, he did. But y'all know, as black people, we can't do what they do and get away with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And as a disclaimer, we are not upping sexual assault in any way, form,
Oh
or
no,
shape.
no, no.
Yeah.
But it just it needs to be talked about. I mean, I think I believe Bill Cosby. I'm one of those people who are on the side of Bill Cosby. Did he do some things that was not so on the up and up? Yeah, I mean he's married, and I think really that's where the issue is between him and his wife. But did those women willingly go to his mansion and other places? Yeah, they went.
Well, the way I view it is this: he was a man of his time in Hollywood in the 1930s, 40s. If you read the book of all the greats, Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, all of the great ones back then, you couldn't get a role without being on that casting couch. I mean, that was the way it was.
Right. But yeah. And let's see here. And Donovan says, "Can you be woke and be married to a white person?" Well, we talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to get into that just a little bit later. And Anastasia says, "Carolyn Bryant is living her best life. When are they going after her?" Yeah, Carolyn Bryant is the one that accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, and you guys know the story about that. And feds, the Biden administration, basically said, "We're not going to pursue that anymore. You guys go on about your life. We're sorry it happened, but we're not going to pursue her." So.
Wait, the Biden administration once again takes something that is sacred to black people and just throws it to the wayside? What a surprise.
Something like that. And Fight for Black says he never admitted to sexually assaulting anyone. Kamal Bell knows that exactly. He never did. He in the deposition that was supposed to be sealed, he talked about I guess maybe it was uppers or downers or something.
Quaaludes, which is prevalent.
What it was, but yeah, he never did. It doesn't sound like he said he did it against her will type of thing. And Donovan said, "Did you know that the documentary was funded by white folks and major studios?" Yes, and most of the people on the I think Kamal is the only black producer and all of that on it. Everybody else is white. No surprise, right? Showtime. And Jafia says, "Donovan, how can you be woke while sleeping with the enemy?" We're gonna talk about it. And Robin, you say no. And Fight for Black says we need to protect Bill Cosby on this issue. I totally agree, because to me, when I watched the trailer, it's like y'all are trying to string clues together. Now, admittedly, I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw the trailer. Clues together from is sitcoms. Okay.
So wait a minute. So we are going to nitpick Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids?
Yeah, I'm sure that's coming into play too.
Oh Lord, I'm done.
And Monet says, "Leave a Bill alone. We have other things to deal with." Yes, indeed. And Kiki, how you doing? Says, "Wow, so they're still bothering him." Wow, shaking my head. Oh yeah, they got a 4-part documentary coming out, and they gonna go all in.
Well, Kiki, you got to remember, when it comes to black people, they will not only will kill your reputation in life, they will kill your reputation in death as well. Look what they're doing to Michael Jackson. Look what they're doing to Prince. They pull out all this stuff that has nothing to do with anything, and the men and ladies can't even defend themselves.
And Anastasia said, "It's so funny to me how people can tell you what your blackness and wokeness looks like. Not all of us are stupid and mesmerized by white folks." Very true. You also say, "I was margined,
married
to a black man." Okay. And Fight for Black says CBS, and One Who Cares says Casey just tied the game. So Kansas City just tied the game. Okay. And Kiki says, "I'm not familiar with him, never heard of him." Yeah, I started hearing of him when I saw him doing documentaries on CNN. And yes, Fight for Black, Les Moonves, of course, he got in a whole bunch of trouble for being, sexually assault women and all that. And he was the CEO, if you will, of CBS, and he had to resign.
Married to an Asian and still married to an Asian. That's why the talk show The Chew went on hiatus, because she was one of the hosts of it, and she was backing her husband.
Yeah, she says, I'm leaving with him, and I mean, I'm not necessarily mad at her. I mean, what's she supposed to do, right? And Anastasia says, "I was married to a black man and he wanted nothing to do with black issues." Yeah, so that's why I said we're going to talk about it just a little bit after I clear these comments, because there's levels to that. And so you say, "No way." And Fight for Black says, "Roman Polanski, what about that creep?" Yeah, I mean, he won an Oscar after he was found
years
guilty.
After.
Yes, he was found guilty of assaulting a 13-year-old. All they needed to do was sentence him. And his lawyer overheard the judge in the bathroom saying that he was going to throw the book at him, and he took off. And so
Yeah,
that's what happened.
and he's never returned to the United States, but yet major studios will still work with him as long as he stays out of the United States.
Right. And Rex, how you doing? He says, much love to you too. They always got to tear down any black who's prominent. Absolutely. Don, how you doing? He says, hey, Dimitri and Donovan, Bell is a raccoon. Yes, he is. Pamela, how you doing? He says, Donovan, you are not watching the football games today.
No,
I'm
the
sure
Dallas
you
Cowboys aren't playing.
Reggie says Kamal Bell needs to go have a seat. Yeah, he knows what he's doing because I'm sure he sees all of the backlash on Twitter and all throughout the internet of people invoking his name like, you are a bootleg, dude. You're doing this at the behest of white supremacy. You know damn well we don't need to keep talking about Bill Cosby. You know it. Sunlight, how are you? And Fight for Black says Bell is a failed comedian, typical to crap on a black man or woman for bitter, I think he meant butter biscuits and a pat on the head. And Jafai says Jamal and Wanda Sykes had a conversation. I think he meant Kamal and Wanda Sykes had a conversation on his show about what it's like to be married to a white woman. It was funny because they both mentioned black women in the conversation. Yeah, they're both married to white women, right? If I'm not mistaken. And Kiki says, okay, some may not like this, but a brother and I were discussing this last night. Here's my thing. Whatever these people are doing, though, they can't do it without cooperation from black people. So that poses the real question. Are the others, quote unquote, the real problem? Or is the problem these black folks who keep willing to be used by the others? Now, I totally agree with you. Come on, sis. We as black people, not us, but them, sign up to get on the bandwagon. Like I said, the usual suspects like the Jamel Hill, your Roland Martin, he's in it. No shock there, right? And Mark Lamont Hill. Of course, there's no shock with none of those three because Jamel Hill is often on Twitter. I haven't seen her lately, but on Twitter, talking very disparagingly about black men, right? And of course, Roland Martin, he is going to do anything white supremacy tells him to do. And Mark Lamont Hill, he tries to straddle the fence, but he is who he is, right?
Well, but that's society today. It's about getting the next job or the next payday. Simone Sanders, she leaves the VP's office to go work for MSNBC to be a Democratic shill or PR spinmeister on that platform. Al Sharpton. At one time, white folks hated Al Sharpton because he was talking truth. Then all of a sudden, he gets a show, and all of a sudden, he ain't talking all that bullshit no more. And that's the culture that we brought out. I mean, even in our young people, get the bag at all costs. Go sell drugs. Go do this. Go do that at all costs, at the cost of your neighborhood or your family or whatever. That is what we've spent into, and people just going to get the bag.
Yes, indeed. And Kiki says, who should be dealt with and addressed first? And Anastasia says they said Nancy Reagan was a great head doctor.
Yeah, she had a reputation in Hollywood of being a good head doctor, right?
Got it. Well, I said, oh, she didn't say no to that, huh? And Moni says, so here's my thing, gorgeous people. This is kind of becoming a reiterated situation. Mr. Cosby was lied on, like so many black men who have money. Bottom line is he's out of jail now. What? They want him back.
Wait. Many black men that have money, many black men that don't have money get lied on. We are not the father.
Right. Well, now what is they want him back in jail. That's what they want. They want to try to bring up some new to nail him to the cross.
Yeah. It's the same thing with OJ. White people want to put him back in jail right now. They got him that second time because he wouldn't want to lay low. But that's what they want to do. When they think that you got to face justice, they're going to do everything they can to do it.
Right. Sunlight says, no one talks much about Camille Cosby, who stood by his side throughout the trial after being embarrassed in front of the world. Yes. And, I just tend to believe that Camille knew this is going on, from the 60s.
The 70s. It was the 70s.
Right. So she knew. I don't know if she was a long-suffering wife and that, that's men gonna play type of thing. I know, because the thing is, Camille has not said anything, although we know that she is and has stood by his side. So
now, wait a minute. Remember, I keep saying people of a generation are people of their time. I'm not saying it makes it right, but times change and standards change, right? Why is it, and I'm not like trying to bash women or nothing like that. I believe Camille knew if she didn't partake herself. It was the 70s. A lot of shit was going on back then. So, if you look at stories of rockers and stuff having group sex and all this other stuff, they did that all the time. There's stories of Red Fox. He would have full-blown orgies at his place with all kinds of prominent stars. So the likelihood that Camille knew was very great. It's very great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how do you go to a married man's house repeatedly and you know he's married? I mean, come on. And Mona says, many people that are on one side are one sided because you have many that will have a Becky on their arm and a Zaddy that keeps hitting them from the public. I think you meant hiding them from the public media because they're scared they're not going to get views called out. And he also say, but at the same time, my notion comes to this: once a man has been found not guilty and they were released, those that tried to keep him in jail is just pissed. Let's talk of Supreme Court black female. We'll talk about that in just a few because that is very important. I just want to get to the rest of these comments. And Cecil says, it's isn't it strange that when they started after Bill Cosby, his son died or was murdered, and his daughter apparently died or was murdered, and everybody white starts coming against Bill Cosby. Yes, indeed. I don't believe those are coincidences either. And Jafia says, remember how they brought Mike Tyson down? Whatever happened to the lying B that helped bring him down? Exactly.
Yeah, and she also got a settlement out of that as well, and punitive damages and stuff, and we haven't heard from her since. And the last I heard, though, honestly, about her, that particular young lady, was she was a news broadcaster somewhere in Buffalo, New York, or in that area.
And I understand she had to change her name or something.
Yeah, she had to change her name and stuff. So, she's keeping a low profile, I guess.
Yep. And Cecil says his wife stuck by him because she knows the whole truth and how they fabricated everything. Yeah, and that could be it too. In fact, now Phyllis says most Euros are cultured to be racist in USA. So the interracial marriage thing with Euros is usually not beneficial for the masses of blacks. Gilvetta, how you doing? He says, good evening, Demetra K. and Donovan and Black First Family. Yes, indeed. And Cecily says, it is good that Demetra K speaks about Bill Cosby because she is being for real about the information that she is gathering to report about cautiously. Yes, I mean, I just think we need to look at things for the facts, right? Not the feelings. Facts, not feelings. We need to look at the facts, and of course, when they, being white supremacy, put together a well glossy documentary and it looks all, I mean, if you listen to the trailer, the music to the trailer I will play it for y'all, but I don't want to get a strike. It sounds like a horror movie. If you listen to the music that's the background.
Is it like the Current Affair with the?
No, it's really like a creepy type of. You would think it's a horror movie, and that's done on purpose. If you guys know anything about production and stuff like that, they set different types of music to different movies or scenes to set a tone, and that tone is very scary if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And Kimmy says, "Roly poly Martin." Yes, indeed. And how you doing, by the way? And Thunder says, "Professor Black Truth showed where they said they didn't even speak to Cosby Camp." When they made this, they felt it was unnecessary. Sounds kind of biased to me. Also, they thought he'll still be in jail. Yes, they. The last day of filming is when he got out, and Kamal did say he thought about asking him to do it, to be in on it, but he didn't want to offend the victims.
But then, okay, you couldn't get the other side of the story, so why put this out at all then? And basically, this documentary means nothing. It's toilet paper.
Well, because they were never interested in getting the other side of the story. It's a hit piece, right? Jafia says Steve Collins of Seventh Heaven admitted to child molestation, and he's still on TV. Yes, indeed, a white man. And Marjorie, how you doing? He says Black First. Hashtag stay on Cole family. Hashtag we have no friends for real. Yes, indeed. And how you doing, by the way? And Honeydew, what's going on with you? Sonny say it looks like they just found a bunch of pieces of him speaking and fix it together to make it look like he was trying to say something. This is just getting ridiculous. Yep, and that's kind of what I drew from the trailers. Like, what is this? It's not. You guys are not. Now you're reaching. And Fight for Black says they want Bill Cosby back in jail to keep him from suing all involved in his incarceration. Yeah, because he did say something about I will be, digging into this with my lawyers.
Well, you got to think about it. 3 years of his life was taken. How much is that worth?
Yes, indeed. And Easy says Moist Lamont Hill and his cronies are a joke. Yes, indeed. And Marjorie says, tell it. And Cecil says, it is good that Demetra K speaks about Bill Cosby in a way that she does because she's speaking of him in a positive light whenever everyone else only speaks of the negative. Yeah, I mean, I like Bill Cosby. I like what he did. and it has done and is doing for the culture. And Sunlight says, I never said she didn't know. I said she stood by him after being embarrassed in front of the world. I highly doubt she wanted to be on public display behind his BS. No,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. No, we didn't say what you're saying was wrong or anything. We were just expounding on it.
Yes, indeed. I agree with you though. And Kiki says, yes, Camille knew. I believe that, but she came from a generation of black women who understood certain things. She know he was out there playing. His number one rule was probably just don't bring home no outside babies, and it was all good. Yeah, a lot of women were like that. Like, hell, I got the money, I got the house. I know he's gonna do that. I can't stop him. Listen, I'm not justifying that because I wouldn't want nobody to do that to me. But I think even today, a lot of women are in that position. Like, wow, what can I do? You know, he comes home sometimes, and I got the money.
Well, isn't Cardi B in a situation like that? She's married to a man that constantly goes out there and has babies, and she sticks with him.
I mean, I don't know if that's
Well, yeah, not in that aspect, but you see what I'm saying? It's nothing new. This is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, and you know, for legal purposes, because Cardi B do like to sue people. I don't know if that's true or not. And Robin says Bill did the settlement to spare Camille from going through the court shenanigans, and he apologized to her for it. That's why she stood by him. He had already told her about this. Yeah, so to your point, none of that was new. They just brought it up again. So good point. And Fast Not Feeling said, laugh out loud and get better. Says, Demetra, I didn't get an alert. Don't know what's going on. Yeah, they keep talking about these shadow bans and stuff.
Yeah, it's a shadow ban. If you don't get an alert, see what it is the Democratic Party, they're leaning on these groups and pressuring them to not get these messages out because a lot of you guys are waking up and we're talking not just regionally, we're talking nationwide. So that's a reason why you do it. Just know Demetra comes on at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time every Sunday.
Yes, indeed. And Facts Not Feeling says the documentary is really a propaganda hit piece on Cosby and all black men by extension. Very good point. And again, they're using a black man to do it. And Kiki says, yep, they set a tone with that music to make the person they're referring to sound menacing. It's very calculating. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, there was an episode in The Simpsons. Remember when Homer Simpson in the early days of The Simpsons, he got accused of sexual harassment? And they would use that menacing music to make him look like a monster, you know, and they brought that out in the episode. The Simpsons is very futuristic and, you know, and what they were thinking and how they went about it.
And Cecil says, AI is changing my words. It's very possible. YouTube does. I don't know what they do, but they do. And he says, you're retracting my statements. Yeah. I don't know why they do that, but it ain't me. So I apologize for that happening to you. And Thunder says, and if you're interested in hearing the other side of the story, Dr. Boyce Watkins has an interview with Bill Cosby's lawyer. Are you where you get to hear the complete other side? I'd be interested in listening to that. And Gavetta says, to me, it seems like everything started going downhill when Bill Cosby wanted to purchase that network. And that's what they're saying. I looked into it. I don't know how true that is, if he was really trying to purchase NBC, because that has been a rumor that they, you know, started gunning for him since then. I know that he was trying to purchase something big, but yeah, I mean, you know, they don't want anybody who is waking people up, right? And trying to do things for black people, the betterment of black people. And Sunlight says Offset has outside kids.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who's that guy that has like 7 different babies. I don't know if it's Offset, so please forgive me about that.
Yeah, it's at the I don't know,
Future or who, I don't know who these kids are, but that guy keeps making, you know, and they just let it happen. There's nothing they can do about it.
And Thunder says, also, does anyone else find it weird that usually with a large case like this, you always hear the defense attorney speaking on the news? They never played a single thing he had to say. I wonder why. Good point. And Amani says, Bill Cosby's son Ennis died in the early mid-90s. He wasn't really being pursued like he is in modern times, because he was pursued when he wanted to buy NBC, and they didn't want a black man owning NBC. And Arson, how are you doing? He says, hey, you two, have you guys been? We've been fabulous. And he says, I'm so late, but it's exactly like Donovan said. If you won't get the other side of the story, why the hell would you release anything? # destruction of our people. It's a hit piece. And Marjorie says, the question is, who's behind it all and what's the agenda? Could Cosby be a distraction from the norm that we've been focusing on? # reparations now. I mean, it could be, or it really could be that they are mad, as they said, with OJ. He got away, right? So they made sure they got him. R. Kelly got away. They made sure they got him. They tried to get Michael Jackson. It failed a copious amount of times. And if you believe, you know, that Dick Gregory, and I do, Michael Jackson was taken from us via his doctor. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it could be a distraction, but
What about Prince? What about? I mean, a lot of these icons that were just made a lot of money in these industries, gone.
yes, indeed. And Thunder says when you listen to the interview with Mr. Cosby lawyer, he reveals a lot of things, and it will make you it will make sense why they're doing what they're doing to this man. I have to check it out. And Moni says, but God is good, and He has not had no money. Who's to say what would have been in his ending fate? Thank God he did have the money and can afford legal representation. Without it, he's screwed. Yeah, he's worth like was it 400 million or something like that. But Bill Cosby's papered up, right? Ain't got to worry about no money. And Kimmy says, please like and share this live. Yes, and please and thank you. Deadshot, how are you? And Robert says, I follow Bill Cosby on social media. I've been following him for years. He's really an okay guy. I've had the honor of speaking with him after he was released. Oh wow!
Oh, right on. Okay, good. Again, a lot of these people like Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor and stuff like that. You hear all this craziness that they go through, but these people opened up a lot of doors for a lot of black, not just the actors, the people in the productions. And gave them the writers and people that do the other things outside of that when it was not even limited to us. And this is what they do to these guys because they're doing things like that.
And we help them do it, unfortunately. And Cecil says absolutely none of this was public information or private in the open until they decided to take down Bill Cosby for his land with oil and it as well for wanting to buy his own TV studio. So yes, I have heard those things too. And Kiki says, "Are you talking about Nick Cannon?" I think he was talking about Future. And Marty says,
and going back to what Cecil was saying, now isn't it funny that? And I'm not a Tyler Perry fan, but I'm not against him either. They let certain people have certain studios that put out certain content that make either black men look like shit or raccoons or women look like whores or whatever. Isn't that strange? How Tyler Perry is allowed to do his little situation there, but Bill Cosby can't, who was putting out positive streams of black people going to college and, doctors and lawyers and these positive. I'm not saying Tyler Perry isn't doing that, but some of his stuff is very, very questionable.
Just wait till he steps out of line. And Marty says, well, quite a few Bill Cosby accusers are standard white supremacists, and you know how they feel about black people as a whole. I'm not surprised. I'm sorry that he even had to do time. If he didn't have the money, he's screwed. Yes, indeed. And Dr. No Job, how are you? He says, Bill Cosby never did a Christmas Cosby show. I did not know that. Interesting. And Gilberto says, so Donovan, you're talking about Future with all the kids. And Tobias says, both Future and Nick Cannon have a lot of different baby moms, but Nick takes care of all of his children. Yes, he does. And Cortez, how you doing? He says, they tried to get Kobe Bryant. Yes, they did. And they still tried to get him not long after he died via Gayle King, and y'all saw how that worked out for her.
Thank God for Lisa Leslie. Thank God for Lisa Leslie telling her, we ain't even gonna go there.
Now, big ups to Snoops, who was like, he squashed all of that. Okay.
What do you have to gain by this?
And Moni says to Demetra, he says, I really want to say that this new Black Supreme Court justice is going to open up many doors. I'm not necessarily looking for her to do a whole lot, but to open doors for future black ladies. We'll talk about that. So keep that in mind. In Facts Not Feelings, you say, contrary to popular belief, most women are okay with sharing a wealthy man. You're right. Wouldn't be me, but you're right about them. And Mr. Pirate Brain, how are you? He says Cosby was worth $1 billion. They took half of his money. Yeah, he was getting pretty close. I do know that. Jafai says Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney, her daughter, and her daughter's murderer were all taken from us. Good point. I don't think any of those were conspiracies. Yeah. Coincidences either.
Yeah, the first thing in an assassination attempt, you kill the assassins.
Yes, indeed. And Kiki says, but it's true. Any black men who are trying to do something big, they go digging up their past. They did it to Ice Cube when he and LL were trying to purchase that network. They went back years trying to say Ice Cube said something about Jews. I haven't heard anything else about the network situation since then. Yes, I remember that. Very good point. And Facts Not Feeling says, facts, Donovan. And Thunder says, Bill Cosby lawyer said that the people are so petty that the Homeowners Association gave Mr. Cosby a fine because if a fine was owed to the city, you're not able to get out of jail until you pay it. Lord have mercy. Man, they was gunning for him big time, huh? And Marjorie says, let's remember to that these news feeds and media corporations are losing ratings. So why not bring up Bill Cosby again? Low ratings, changes in commentators. Very good point. And Easy says to allow music, actors, and sports icons to reach their peak and then stage events to bring them down to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah. Yes. And Sunlight says Lisa Leslie, facts about Lisa Leslie. Yeah, and she didn't take the bait, which I really love because her and Kobe were like best friends. And Robin says they even fined Camille because the grass was mowed when I think it wasn't mowed when Cosby was in prison, just days before he was released, or was mowed. Yeah, that's crazy. What do they have to say about that, right? And let's see here. Anastasia says God was good to Cosby. Well, can God be good to me by not allowing me to even go through it? How about that? Okay, and so who said that? If you don't mind me asking. And Kiki says, "What doors? It's not going to open up anything. It's just something else Biden is doing to shut Black people and be able to say I did something for Black people, and that's because he doesn't plan on doing much else. You better believe it."
Let me say this real quick in regards to a Supreme Court justice. Having one person on there in a group think, that doesn't change much because it's one of 9. So how much would a Black person do? Clarence Thomas has been on there. We know how that worked out, but we're going to get into it.
We're going to get into that. Yeah, let me finish these comments and we'll get into that. And Robin says because the grass was not mowed. Okay, that's what you meant. And Sean, how you doing? He says conservatives outnumber the liberal justice on the Supreme Court. Hate to say she won't make a difference. Good point. And Cecil says it's not your fault, Demetra K. No apology from you is necessary. We know who the enemy is. The internet was invented and appropriated by us and stolen by the patent office. Yes, indeed. And Anastasia, you say it's not strange. It's white supremacy, and it's a reason his initials are TP because he don't put anything out but shit. Jafia, you say they went after Ice Cube, but allowing bootleg Ice T to ride under the radar. Right. He had a whole song about murking cops, right? With his group Body Count. And Kiki says exactly.
Weren't you a dancer behind them?
No. Oh. And LL, how you doing? He says, good evening, Demetra and the recovering Democrat. How are you? And love your show. Big hugs. Thank you. And Gavetta says, right, Donovan is not going to change nothing. And let's see here. Kiki says, I'm tired of Black folks being satisfied with the dust from the breadcrumbs because they are not even giving us breadcrumbs anymore. So Donovan, you want to go ahead and usher in a conversation about the Supreme Court justice?
Okay, yeah, everybody's getting, and I did a podcast on that earlier today in regards to this Supreme Court justice. Now, me and Demetra were talking on her podcast yesterday in regards to what was going on. I'm intellectually stimulated to look at what's beneath the surface, and I happen to know half of those judges that were nominated are married to white men. And we said earlier in the day, in the conversation, about can you be pro-Black and be married to another person, and that's all based on your experiences or whatever. So this one lady that seems to be the front runner, and the one that they vetted so far seems to be the front runner. She's about 55 years old. Isn't that the one from Clarence Thomas? Wasn't she nominated by Clarence Thomas?
So her name is J. Michelle Childs, and she has been selected, handpicked by that of Jim Clyburn. They're both from South Carolina. And so
right now that tells you all you need to know right there. If she comes from Clyburn, that tells you a lot right there. So here's my point, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Here's my point with that, and and again, Moni, I love you to death, and like that, and everybody's opinion is valid. Doesn't mean it's right, but it is valid. We have a lot of people that love symbolism, and I talked about that on my podcast. They put this person up, a Black woman, and if it wasn't for the fact that he used that during the campaign, he wouldn't have done that because now his back's up against the wall. So he has to put a Black woman up, and his poll numbers are tanking. So he figures, well, I'm going to throw this up there and then we'll see what happens. Right. Okay. You got a lot of Black people. Woo! Ski wee. We got a Black woman. Okay. I don't give a damn who you put up there being a Black woman. One Black woman is not going to change a 9-member panel. And I was telling Demetra before we started the show, what you really got to do is research. Let's look at their activism on the court, or at least before they married the white dude. and see how pro-black they were after they got married. Because let's face it, ladies, you don't want to disturb your husband or insult your husband